action.
Ah, good. That's good. All right. So my screen's up. I'm sharing correctly. Yes.
Yes, you are.
All right. Cool. So we'll start the way we start every day. A mission. So I don't know how many of you guys know Pinky in the Brain, but yeah.
Pinky and the brain.
Yeah. So we're gonna do what we do every day. We're gonna plan to take over the world. Yeah.
Now, who's the genius in saying?
No, the genius, yeah, John, definitely the genius in this crew, and probably Eddie when it comes to that. I am less of the genius, but I'm definitely down to take over the world, no question.
Are you Pinky?
That was an admission by default, I guess, right?
I mean, kind of.
Yeah. All right. So yes, we're going to lead generate, obviously, every day, and I hope you guys are doing that. And I know for sure that some of you are, because you're talking about it, we're telling stories. I hear you discussing it in group coaching in the morning. Those of you who are on group coaching, really proud of you. And those of you who have not taken that opportunity yet, please get into there at 8:30 with John Dietz. Also get on 8 o'clock with Shaw and Shift and Pivot. Those are tremendous opportunities. We're growing every day so that on the other side of this, we are ready to embrace the business that is going to come out of this. It literally is going to be a great year when this ends. 2021 should be amazing. Looking at, I was on a call with Pat Blood yesterday, and he shared a lot of economic data on the real estate market, data on the lending market, and so on. And it was really informative. I'm excited for the next 18 months in real estate. I really am. When you're building yourself this way, you're building your abilities this way, you're going to have tremendous opportunity. So right now, those are the connections that we're making. We're making care calls. We're reaching out to people. We're touching base with people when no one else is, right? Their doctors aren't calling to see how they're doing. Their lawyers are not calling them. My financial advisors, I had a conversation because I called them, right? They're sending emails and stuff, but they didn't reach out to me per se specifically. I have a good relationship with them. Then I got on the phone with them. We had a great conversation, but they didn't initiate that call, right? And we had a discussion because I was like, how you doing? And he was like, well, here's what's going on with the market. And I said, no. How are you doing? And he's like, actually, nobody asked me that. And it's something that I learned from, that you should learn from. No one's asking people these questions, especially people that they're in business with, because when we call our professional friends or people that are doing things for us, no one else is asking, right? So call people and ask them, how are they doing? And if they give you a superficial answer, be more specific. No. How are you and your family doing? Like, how are you dealing with this? What is home like? What's going on in your life since this change? Is there anything I can help with? Right? So consider that when you're calling people, they're not getting these questions, or if they are, it's very sort of just water skiing. So I would invite you to scuba dive with them, right? So that's our focus. Today, we've got a different focus, which kind of connects directly into today. We're going to break down the common points of negotiation. And John DiMartino touched on some of these yesterday, and you can't help but do it because they're connected, right? Accepting offers, making offers, making and receiving offers, and negotiations, all part of the same. So we're going to examine the 3 P's approach to the negotiation, and we're going to analyze the counter tactics. We're going to real play the 3 P's, and we're going to recap and create a success list. right? And so those are going to come into our daily success habits. So let's get right into the negotiate the deal part. So who has recently been negotiating a transaction in the group?
I'm actually in negotiations right now.
Okay. Okay. How's the other agent on the other side?
She's cooperative.
Okay.
I'm working.
Okay.
So I'm working the buyer side.
Okay. And so there is a difference in what your objectives are, and yet it's the same, isn't it?
Yes, we're both working towards the same goal.
Yeah, and it's not your goals, are they?
No, they're not.
And it's important to realize that. Right? So your ability to negotiate the deal can affect the outcome of every single deal. And I think the first ability that we have is to make a good connection with the agent that we're working with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Make a solid connection. Let them know specifically that you're there to help your client reach their goals and their client. That you're working together to a common goal. Right? When I get an offer and I feel like it's in the ballpark on a listing, or I'm making an offer and I feel like I've coached them right to make the right offer to where we can bring those two together. First thing I'm saying to that agent is, look, I've got some really reasonable clients, and I'm sure that yours are reasonable as well. And I believe that if we, kind of have the right conversations with them, we can bring them together on this and help them reach their goals. Is it about me at that point?
No.
Am I allowing the agent to make it about them?
Nope, not giving them a chance.
No, I'm going right to, this is about our clients.
Yep.
And I'm letting them know we're all reasonable people. So I'm planting seeds for expectations, aren't I?
Yep.
Everybody's got I'm scripting everyone all the time. It's not a mistake. Like, this is purposeful. I'm
Mm-hmm.
planting those seeds to get them in the right frame of mind as well. So what are some ways that you negotiate every day in life, guys? Unmute yourself and tell me, like, what do you negotiate every day?
Well, I'm married, so I'm negotiating. every day.
You're negotiating diaper changes. Come on.
That's dinner.
You are.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's making dinner. It's I'll cook today.
Cleaning the dishes.
You know.
I heard you negotiating diaper changes. Don't lie.
Yeah, that happens also. But I did it last time, so we're a team. Win-win.
Yeah, but mine was a poop and yours was a pee. So you know what? If you clean this poop, I'll do the next two pees.
Yeah, one of mine goes to two of those, right?
Right. So we're negotiating everything in life. It literally are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Every time you turn around, there's some negotiation. Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
You said your script. You script everybody. Something that I realize is that a lot of agents forget that we're supposed to be working towards a common goal. A lot of agents feel that it has to be adversarial, that it has to be me against you, and we are, two rams going against each other. And it really has to be a win-win scenario, as a win-win situation. And there have been times where I've had to remind agents, by the way, you're considered a co-op agent because you're supposed to be cooperating. All right.
Yes.
You're not cooperating. All right. You're not being a very good co-op right now.
Yeah.
I've had to remind people that sometimes, and they get a little bit offended, but then they're like, yeah, you're kind of right. It's not about me and you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
So we need to
love that
get
you
our
say-
offer in as soon as possible. Sorry,
Yeah,
Mike.
no.
Sorry, Mike.
No worries. And I love that you say that, because we need to remind them that we're there to service our clients. We're there to work together this way.
Michael,
Right.
some agents do come on the wrong way by saying that they're insulting you on your listing price, stuff like that. So they.
Is everybody losing Eddie, or is it just me?
lost them also.
Eddie, would you repeat that if you could? I don't have any audio for you, Eddie.
No, I don't hear him either.
I'm not sure what happened to his audio.
You guys
All
can
right.
hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. So, like, what about when some agents do come on the wrong way? If you're the listing agent and they're doubting your list price, or they're being insultive. So, I guess professionally, you have to let them uh, feel that this is not the way to start the conversation.
Yeah, and that again, that goes back to setting those expectations from the outset of receiving an offer, right? And picking and choosing the offer that you accept. And honestly, part of the, as far as the listing side, when I can't help it when I'm the buyer side, except for to be as professional and have that I can be, and have that other agent really believe that I'm the person that they should accept the offer from, that my clients are the clients that they should accept the offer from. Those are the things that are within my control. On the listing side, what's in my control is to vet the buyer, and just as equally as important, vet the agent who's also on that end. Because if you don't have a agent who is professional and realistic, and some reason you just rub each other the wrong way, there's a really good chance that that transaction will not succeed. I mean, I have chosen different offers and helped my clients choose a different offer that was lower based on the realtor.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, we had an offer that was $5,000 higher, but because the agent on the other end made it so difficult through the process, because we had multiple offers, and during this situation, this agent was being erratic, very emotional, yelled, raised his voice a number of times.
Wow.
I explained that to my client, and I said, if it were me, I would go with the offer that's $5,000 lower right now, because I feel like we could be on the market for 30 to 45 days with this agent, and this might not succeed. So if you knew that going up front that this could happen, what would you do? And they said, well, I think we should probably go with the lower offer where you feel confident. And I was like, yeah, that's what I would do. And we moved forward, and they did not regret it for a second. And it turns out that that other agent was an absolute psycho.
Whoa.
Yeah. So good stuff. And what else kind of helped me to figure that out is DiMartino has got some skills. We looked up that agent and saw that he was generally, sort of a different type of agent, right? He did a lot of rentals and so on. He wasn't familiar with making offers. And, he's working for a smaller company. We didn't have training like this, right? So, yeah, he was out of his depth, and he was trying to take me into that deep water with him, and I wasn't interested in going, right?
Yep.
So, let's see. What are skills that great negotiators possess?
Asking the right questions.
Questions, absolutely.
Listening.
Yeah. You're listening for those small details that somebody would miss, and then you can jump back in and use that as a tool to get ultimately what your client wants.
Empathy.
Yes, you have to be able to feel
Yeah.
what people are saying is attached to what they're feeling, right? And so if you know that they're feeling a certain thing that will affect the outcome, if you address that, and there's a connection that's made, whether it be with your clients or that agent or the agent's clients, because what I've noticed is that that agents that I co-op with share a lot of information about their clients for some reason. I don't know why, but they do. They just throw up all the details because for a lot of them it's about them. I've been working for them for 6 months. You know, we've missed out on 3 deals. I'm the listing agent. I'm in the driver's seat. They're going to tell me that I'm in the driver's seat, man. I mean, yeah, you already missed out on 3 deals. You've been working them for 6 months. They're trying to buy a house. I am not dropping the price of this very much because you've just given me some tremendous ammunition, reasons why I don't need to. Right? God forbid we're in a multiple offer situation. I'm going to have a full price offer. Right? Because you just told me where your pain is. Right? So listening is tremendous. Empathy, yes, and empathy goes both ways, right? So I'm an empath. I'm feeling your pain. You want to get paid, right? So you're going to talk those people in to getting the best price for my seller, right? That I'm not sharing. If you're making an offer, if you're an agent that's working with somebody on the buy side, you're not sharing any information. You want your clients to come off as they don't care very much. Yeah, they like the house and they would move into the house, no question. However, it's not make or break for them. If you convey that to a listing agent, they're going to be in the driver's seat. They're going to feel it. They're going to know it, right? So you got to be careful with that. So the graphic on the screen, it depicts the negotiation. The negotiation happens between a buyer and a seller, right? And their agent, and it also happens between the agents involved in the transaction. Where is there like a space shuttle taking off? Where what am I hearing?
I think it was traffic on one of the microphones. I just muted everyone.
Okay. Sound like the space shuttle, dude. I'm
Oh my
looking up.
God.
I'm looking up. I'm like, what's all right?
Little rockets flying over.
So it takes place in 2 areas of the transaction. The offer phase, right? The goal of negotiation is to get a contract, right? So that's the first time that, so you get the buyer and the seller, and they're separated by these 2 individuals that are doing all the work, right? And you never want to have your client mixed in there. I've had agents actually have their client contact me directly, and I'm just like, why would you do that? Right? Like I smell blood in the water. Like you are not in control of your deal, right? And I couldn't imagine why, and yet it happens, and it happens all the time, too often, right? The second period is the option period. This happens when an under contract, and the goal is to close the contract, right? So this can be in a couple of different places. This can be in the inspection or appraisal phase, right? Because there's always 3 negotiations unless things hit the way they're supposed to hit, but there's always 3 times, right? So initial price, secondly is inspection, and the third opportunity is going to be your appraisal. And I explain this to my clients, whether they're sellers or buyers, up front, so they know that these are the 3 places that this is going to happen, right? It's almost always going to happen in the inspection phase. Anybody have one that the inspection went through and there was no negotiation required? Alan's raising his hand, and I'm amazed. So you went right through. Was it a full price offer? What caused it to go right through like that? So I think Alan pushed his button and he left the meeting.
Hold on. I'm back.
Gotcha.
I was trying to unmute myself.
Yes, you did.
It's actually a property I have under contract right now. We went in sight unseen, virtual showing, went through inspection, and the inspection was the cleanest inspection report I've ever seen.
Awesome.
And yeah, I was just like, I let my buyers know. I'm like, guys, this is the one of the cleanest inspection reports I've ever seen. We already got an $18,000 credit off the top. So I was like, guys, going in asking for anything else is it's almost gonna be impossible. Like, there's nothing. I don't have any ammunition to go in with. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, that's
Mike, I also what I do is I set the expectations right from the beginning with the buyer's agent that since we negotiated this price and we finally agreed to it, unless there's something major wrong with the house, please don't come back and negotiate. Don't try to negotiate dimes and nickels.
so that's my script roughly. As well. When I'm the listing agent, I'm going to look. When I accept an offer, when I have spoken to my clients and they're good with the price, and now I'm going back and I'm going to take the time and have a discussion with the listing agent, with the buyer's agent rather. I'm going to have a conversation in which I will share a script and plant seeds for that agent.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
look, my buyers, my sellers are, they're willing to go forward with this, even though it's less than they wanted for their house. So right away, I'm telling them they wanted more.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
if you come back, like I'm putting their seed in their mind, if we go back and ask for anything else, they're really not going to be happy. Right.
Mm-hmm.
They are also, like I said it before, and I'll say it again, they're reasonable people. So if when your inspection report comes back, now we're executed, you're going to have your inspection. I've already shortened their inspection period, and that's part of negotiation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am, and I don't, so, all right. So I'll go back to that in a minute. So at this point, I'm going to let them know their script for going back to their clients. I'm not going to tell them this is your script, but I'm going to plant those seeds.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So when they came in, they saw the property. We wound up at this price. They're comfortable buying the house with everything that they saw at this price. Right. So that's everything that they know about the property. When, like, kind of like I tell my buyers, right? Whenever they get their inspection, what we're looking for is major mechanical, structural, plumbing, electrical, things that we didn't see on the surface when we looked at this house.
Yep.
Caulking around bathroom sinks, we saw that. We decided to make this offer, right? So just keep in mind when I talk to my buyers, we're offering an as is contract. So we're buying the property as is, except for things that are underlying that are major and we can't see.
Yep.
And so that's what my client is expecting to come back. If you have something like that, they're very reasonable, and they'll definitely work with you if there's something that shows up that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
Other than that, they requesting that we please don't nickel and dime this because they've already dropped the price more than they feel comfortable with. So if
Yep.
that sounds good with you, we can move forward with this. So I will give them that script before we get an accepted offer.
Yeah. Hey, Mike. So I had a sale once over in Loxahatchee, and during the inspection, during the walk, that we saw some things, and we made that part of our negotiation on the price. That we accounted for those issues we saw. The inspection came out for the most part really, really well, and there wasn't any major issues that we weren't aware of. The buyer says to me, I was representing the buyer. Buyer says to me, well, you know what? The rubber seal at the bottom of a garage door?
Yep.
She says, since that is worn, I want the seller to replace that. So I said to her, I said, look, that's $50 to $100. Okay. I'm not asking the seller for $50 to $100. And her response was, well, I feel like I have to get something.
A lot of
Oh,
times they do.
And she was just like, I feel like I have to get something. I said, if that rubber seal makes you that, if you're that adamant about that, I'll get that for you as your closing gift. If that's what you want, I'll get
That's
that.
it. That's it.
You already won. You got a great price. You got this and that and so forth. And you're right, nickel and diming. Okay. But a lot of times they feel that they have to get something else. And like I said, like Eddie mentioned, if you said it right from the very beginning, from the initial consultation, We're making an as-is contract, just like an offer based on as-is condition. And the inspection, we're going to go after if there's anything we didn't know, right? If when we go into the roof, we find that there's all kinds of mold up there and there's this and there's that we didn't see that during the initial walkthrough, then it's okay to start going after things like that.
And
Paige
you
asked,
explain to your clients the same thing, right? You explain to your clients the same thing. So I have this conversation with the buyer's agent, and I have this conversation with my sellers as well, right? So they made the offer based on what they could see. Now, when there's an inspection, things that we have to be ready to address is things that are underlying that we can't see. As sellers, we can't see them, and we have to be reasonable when it comes down to it, and keep them reasonable with the requests. And that's what I'm here for.
Paige
Sorry,
in
go
the
ahead,
chat
John.
box said, how do we prevent our clients from contacting the other agent directly?
Oh my, yeah. So letting them know exactly what I said a little bit ago, because when they have a conversation with, like, would you talk to, if we were in a courtroom, would you go ahead and cross the aisle and confer with that person's attorney? No, because you might be giving up valuable information that will put us ahead and that can be used against us later. Right? You don't know what that one question that they might ask you. These are professional negotiators. So yes, you want to go through me only because I know what they're looking for. And you may say something in casual conversation that ends up working against us. Right? So that's exactly why you wouldn't do that. And this is part of the conversation that you have right after you get them to sign the listing agreement, what your next steps are. Same thing with the buyer broker agreement, what your next steps are. I'm going to negotiate with you. I'm going to be in contact with that buyer agent or seller agent to make sure that I get you the best price, whether it's a buyer or a seller, for your home, right? And I'm going to make sure that we don't give up any information. So please keep all the conversation with me and you so that I can protect the information that's important to us and help us negotiate the best deal.
So Mike, I said that to my buyer, and my buyer, against my will, still called you, the listing agent. How would you handle it?
Yeah, so to be professional, you would want to say, listen, that's a great question, and you should have your agent contact me.
Good.
To be and to go a step further, I gave that script to a buyer that called me. Remember early in this call, I told you about that psycho agent that we had multiple offers,
Yep.
and he continued to give me lowball offers
Yep.
until he gave me one that was $5,000 above everyone else. He insulted my clients, and then he made an offer that was $5,000 above, and his clients couldn't figure out what was happening. And I told him, give me an offer. We already have two other offers. They're higher than yours. And he continued to give me lowball offers. And I said, give me an offer with escalation clause. Go ahead and give me that. It'll put you in the best position. Told him how to do it, and he lowballed me again. And I
Wow.
said, look, I don't know what to tell you. I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom. I'm telling you how you get I met your clients when we did the showing. They seem very nice. They really seem like they want this house. You've just got to help them get it. And I'm kind of giving you the keys to the kingdom, how to do that. And you keep
Wow.
sending me low offers. So I don't understand what your program is, but you're not going to get this house for them. Right. And so his clients were frustrated as well. And they called me. Don't understand why we're not getting this house. And I said, well, you should ask your agent, because I gave him exactly what to do to put you in the best position to get this house. So really, you should ask that agent. I don't know what to tell you. And they continued to call me, and I was like, I don't want to. I can't represent you here. I says they were doubting his ability, and I was like, in my head, yeah, you should, because he doesn't know what he's doing. Asked me how they could buy the house. I says, well, I really don't know. If you're asking me for a recommendation for an agent, I could give you a recommendation for an agent. I don't know what to tell you. If you're telling me you're no longer happy with that person, I will recommend someone else. Obviously, it's not going to be me because that would be ethically wrong, but
Yep.
I'll recommend someone else to you, right? Because I think you guys are nice. I think you deserve a home. And yeah, you were in position for this one. But this person was badgering me now, asking for for help. And I told him I can't help them. It's ethically wrong for me. Now, this would be taking them on as the client. And he had, prior to that, accused me of not accepting their offer because I wanted to gain them as a client. Like, that's who I was dealing with on the other end.
Wow. Wow.
And that is why we ultimately did not accept his offer, because he was just irate, screws loose, you know. And his client lost that house because he was not proficient. He didn't have the kind of training that you guys are getting, right?
Yep. Yep.
That was a
Uh,
fortunate, Mike. You definitely did the right thing with that one. Being ethical, and giving, not and referring that to somebody else. Because if I remember correctly, the way that story did end was she did fire that agent, right? And you did end up referring that to another agent. So you did the right thing. You wanted to avoid uh, any kind of appearance of impropriety. So yeah, did the
yeah, yeah. I don't know what happened with them. Because yeah, and even a referral, I don't want a referral fee. I don't want anything to do with that. I just want that hot potato out of my lap,
Mhm.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So you just got to take one for the team and help some people out and receive nothing for it, right?
This is great stuff because this is not being taught in other companies. I'm telling you this.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I want you to think about, there are three possible outcomes, and I explain this to my clients when we're talking about offers, when we're talking about negotiations and period in general. I tell them when we sign the listing agreement, these are the next steps, right? So on price, we're going to get an offer, right? One of three things we can do with this offer. We can accept it as is, right? We can reject it completely, or
You
we
could
can
counter.
counter the offer, right? So one of three things: accept, go kick rocks, negotiate, right? That's where we are. And this is going to happen with everything that we do. And it's probably going to happen 2 times and maybe even 3, right? So when we accept, it's full price offer. Awesome. Cool. We accept it. We reject, go kick rocks. We don't like it for whatever reason. And counter. Now, when we counter, we're going to counter someplace that makes sense, that causes them, and I'm going to keep them in a box of numbers, monetary figures, to where I feel we have the best price, because I already have an idea in my mind where our property will close based on where I priced it. And if I can get to where I explained to them we would probably close with an offer that I receive, I'm going to keep them in a box of negotiations, whether it's increments that I will have the buyer move up or us move down, but I choose those increments on the first counteroffer, right? So if I'm moving 10,000 on a counteroffer down, I want them moving $10,000 up. If I know we've got 2 moves before we get together, cool. If I want to do 1 move before we get together, cool. But I already have it in my mind, so I get them thinking inside the same box. If it's a $5,000 increment box, that's where we're moving, 5,000. If we're $15,000 apart, and I know two $5,000 moves will get us both there, then that's what I'll do. Because I noticed early on that whatever you move, the other party tends to move in the same increment. So when you think about it that way and you move, make sure that you move in increments that 1 or 2 moves will get you where you wanted to be. Now, it could be $7,500, it can be 5,000, it could be 10,000, but get them thinking in a box, so where they're with you, moving how you want them to move with every negotiation. So that's just something to think about, a little food for thought. Get them thinking inside the box that you've created. The next thing is, okay, so when we go through inspection period, all right, so we're in inspection, and they'll come back with some things that they found. We'll decide what they're reasonable. I'll look over the report and go from there. And we'll decide based on what they send us what's reasonable and what's not, right? And then we'll negotiate. Either, it could be like, you know what, they just found that the air conditioner is literally on its last legs. It's going to fall apart tomorrow. We didn't even know this. It's all rusted inside and it's just a mess. Okay, well, maybe we give them a new AC and accept that. Maybe we give them somewhere in the middle, kick a field goal, everybody wins, right? We'll split the uprights and bring these two together and everybody wins. Or maybe we tell them, you know what, that's ridiculous. We're not caulking the countertops. Go ahead and, once they come back with a negotiation, we're out of contract, right? And explain that to your buyers on the other side as well, right? Once we go ahead and make this new offer, they're no longer in contract with us. So if they had another offer sitting and waiting, they can accept that, right? So we can lose this transaction if we're not reasonable. So you want to keep everybody in that same mindset, reasonable. And also, this is a great time to win with your sellers if your sellers are going to be your buyers, right? So I want you to think about yourself. If you were the buyer in this position, how you would deal with this. The same way they're looking at this property on the inspection is the same way. This is the way I want them to see it. And it's the same way I'm going to want you to see this, right? When we're looking at, like, think about how this feels when they're nickel and diming and beating us up about caulking and something needs to be cleaned. Like, it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. Think about that when we're about to make an offer on your next property and we have the inspection. Here's what I want you to be looking for: major mechanical, structural, plumbing, electrical, roof. Those are the things that, and when we go see the property, everything that we see, when we come up with a price, we're okay with all of it. That's the price. We're not going to nickel and dime, because the inspectors are very much like divorce attorneys. Okay. They get you wanting to get everything because they put it out there and they put it with all these prices that are generally 3 times the real amount to fix it. Right. So I want to get them thinking in the right mindset so that when we make an offer on the next property, they think about how this felt and it goes a little bit more smoothly. It's really important to communicate this process and how it feels on the seller side to your sellers who are going to be buyers, right? Because it's going to make it that much easier for you to help them on the buy side, right? So the same thing on the inspection, we accept what they're saying and give them a credit. And I don't want you, another thought process there is, I don't want you fixing anything. If there is something that we need to fix, I don't want you fixing anything. What I want you doing is I want you to actually give them a credit if we decide, because I want you packing boxes. Okay. I want you guys packing boxes. I want you not worrying about scheduling anything. And I'll explain it to them in a way that makes sense to where they can go ahead and get whatever repairs are done, put in their name, with any warranties that come with them will be in their name, so that it goes to them and it's not, for you. Does that make sense? And so they'll get it, and I want to give credits. And yeah, when they tend to come in higher for those causes, oh, hold on one second. Hey, DiMartino, are you there?
I am. I had to step away for a second.
Hey, can you do me a favor and send Carolina the link for this training?
Yep.
Thanks. So I want you to get them in the right mind frame, both sellers and buyers. Have them think about what they're doing. It's going to be more likely that they get to win, because these monetary values that inspectors put on anything, I mean, honestly, they put $250 for a GFI.
Mike, I
Right.
agree with you 100%, because like how you recommend credit versus repairs, repairs are not recommended because the repairs are never going to be exactly the way the buyer wanted it anyway. They're always going to find faults with it.
So that's a really good point. And let me give you another reason why you shouldn't be doing repairs. Anybody do a repair ever where you kind of fix something and maybe it's something on the wall and then you had to remove it? And then you found that beyond that, there was another problem. And beyond
Yep.
that, there was another problem. I don't want them digging a hole of problems.
Yep.
Right? So let this be. And that's another reason why you explain to your seller, let them do it. Because if there's more problems found beyond that, we don't want to be dealing with that. It
Yep.
could be a can of worms and I don't want to open it. Let them open it. Let's
True.
give them money. And now they're like, oh my God, I didn't think about that. You know what? Give them the money. Now they're more willing to give up that money than
Yep.
they were before, right? Because they're thinking about, wow, this could be actually worse than what it seems.
Yep.
Now, like I said, a GFI, they want $50 to $250. And guess what? A GFI is $20. Takes me about 4 minutes to do it, and I can do one live, you know? So it's like, this is an easy fix. I'm not going to accept ridiculous numbers from my seller when the buyers are coming back with those things. And I'm going to have a really intelligent conversation with the buyer's agent if I'm the listing specialist, um, on how much these things cost. And if I'm the buyer's agent, I'm going to have a really intelligent conversation about with my buyers about the real cost of these things so that we're not asking for too much. And yeah, generally if I'm asking on stuff from the buyer's side and I know a number that I'm looking for, I'll double it because they're now feeling like they got to win if they get me in half, which is what I wanted in the first place. But it's all negotiation strategies and skills that get you where you want to be, right? And the last one is on the appraisal. If it should come in low, right? There's one of three things we can do. There's always one of three things we can do. We can either accept it and go ahead and from the seller side, give up the money, or from the buyer side, we were in a multiple offer situation and the appraisal came in low. You know what? We can get back out there with those other buyers coming back in that may be willing to pay more, or we can come out of pocket with the full 5 grand and just buy the house. The seller side, we can, you know what, go ahead and drop the price 5 grand and let them buy the house. Or we can kick a field goal, split the uprights, split it $2,500 a piece and move forward. Or we can walk away from the deal and not buy that house. Or we can tell those people that $5,000, either you come out with it or you kick rocks and we take our chances going back to the market. But we always explain to our buyers, our sellers rather, if we don't accept this offer, we take our chances going back to the open market, right? We've already been off the market for 30 days. Now we've been there, and what's a new buyer going to come in and ask? The first question they're going to ask is what after we've been off the market for 30 days. What are they going to ask us?
What happened?
What happened? That's a loaded question, isn't it? And what do we say? What do we
The
say
truth?
when they ask?
The truth?
Yeah,
They-
what do we say the
they know
truth.
the truth.
We say the truth. And do they have to believe us?
Well,
Is it likely that they will believe us?
yes.
Sometimes.
Mm.
Sometimes. And it puts us in a gray area, doesn't it? So I like to work in black and white with things that we know. And so you know what? I think we can make this work with this buyer and save our time, going back to the market, and taking a shot here. I think we have an opportunity to make this happen. And why go chasing two rabbits, right? When you've got one in the pot, right? We've got a buyer right now. And now we can go chase 10 others, but we've got one. So I don't know if I'm just lucky, but every time I've ran into that situation, I've gotten the seller to see it the correct way, and they've stayed in the game, and we've made it happen. So lucky or good, or a little bit of both, I'll take it. Because going back to the market and chasing, it's a chance, right? We're hoping to find that other opportunity, and is hope a strategy? So that's a script. that I'll give to my sellers or buyer, is hope a strategy? It's not. So we can use this strategy that's right in front of us. So it's always price and terms. I'm going to move on from that.
Hey, before you move on, Mike, real quick.
Yes.
As the listing agent and you get an offer accepted, do you immediately put the property under contingent or pending on the MLS, or do you wait to pass the inspection period?
So you want to show the buyer's agent sort of good faith, right? That you're not playing around. It's not a really good strategy to, like, if you had an open house and you accepted an offer on Tuesday or Wednesday and you had an open house scheduled for Saturday, it really is not great ethics to go ahead with that open house. It's because you're under contract, right? Whether or not the inspection has happened or not. And you should put that property onto either pending or backup. I always put it on backup, letting that other agent, so that's keeping the other agent on the bubble, okay? Letting them know that I can show this property, right? And so while you're going through your inspection period and everything else, I'm going to be showing this property if somebody's requesting a showing. I'm going to keep this property available to receive offers. And that way it kind of keeps them on a bubble and motivated to move forward.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yeah. And holding an open house at a property that's already on the contract it's really questionable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've-
it's not great ethics.
I've noticed a lot, mostly in Palm Beach. Like I would go, especially for the virtual showings, most recently, try and either show the property or see what's going on, and the agents will be like, "Oh, it's under inspection period." I'm like, "Well, it says active on the
What are we
MLS."
doing? Right. Yeah, and you're upset, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, because especially my clients, like they have an active feed to my MLS, so they think that everything that's on this feed is what's actually active, and now
It's unethical.
Yeah.
The answer is that's unethical.
You know,
I'm
and I hate
not showing my clients that property if I find that out.
and I hate saying this, but it is the truth, because, you know, in this industry, because as members of the National Association of Realtors, we are expected to act ethically, right? And part of the our covenant with the board is that we will use integrity and be honest with the MLS, okay, and the information that we put in there. So when I do come across things like that, and I have, where I know that the property, I know that the property is under contract, and then I love when they say, "Yeah, we're actually supposed to close next week. Why is it still listed as active?" Right? So there's a little triangle that says report this to the board. I do, right? Because at the end of the day, we have to police ourselves, and it's the agent is doing that so that she can continue to keep getting leads coming into her. Okay. However, it doesn't look good for our industry. So they're not getting fined unless it's like the 50th time they've done that. And sometimes, I mean, I've even gotten emails from the board saying, hey, please confirm that your listing is pending sale, or is this or is that. That means someone clicked report me to the board, right? And that's fine. We're trying to police up our MLS. We have to police up ourselves. So when you come across things like that, absolutely report that.
Yeah, it's affecting the data.
Mm-hmm. It's manipulating the data. It's changing things, and it's aside from being unethical, it makes us look bad as an industry when you go to show your clients their home of their dreams and then find out that it's about to close next week.
Yeah, it definitely affects the data, and it's definitely something that you should report, and get them to change it. Rather say, listen, do me a favor, could you change that? Because if I didn't call you, and I know not a lot of agents call to see property, if you just have it set up in the MLS as schedule and go, I'm calling you because I want to find out if you have any offers on the property. And I recommend that all of you call and find out, are there any offers before you go and show, right? Because your client's needs may not have time for waiting to see if something comes out of contract. And maybe they say, you know what? I don't care if it's under contract. Let's put in a backup offer, right? We just did that with Paige, and Paige's offer was accepted recently. I believe it was yesterday. Fell out of contract, and she was in line with a bona fide backup offer, and it was accepted, right? So know what your client's needs are, and then call the agent. Find out what's going on with the property. What position is it in? Is it still open and available? Cool. That's how we go through this process. Make a personal contact to the agent. Find out what else is important. Can they close in the time frame that your buyers need? Right? Because if they can't, you're wasting time spinning your wheels going to show property. If I'm working with a client and they've got to move in 30 days, are your clients ready to move? How motivated are they? I need a 30-day closing. Is that possible at your property? They could say, no, it's not possible. And then that you're not showing that property, right? So make these personal contacts. It's going to go a long way if you actually send in a contract. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. So price and terms. I learned this early on in my first listing. John DiMartino taught me this one. He said, anytime you give up something in price, take something back in terms.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that for?
Your client.
Yes, Paige. Absolutely. It's to show your client that you are working in their best interest. And give them an additional reason to go ahead with that negotiation, right? So you know what? If we can give up that 5,000, this is where we're at. We're kind of at an impasse. But if I can get them to, for that $5,000 in price reduction, if I can go ahead and get them to speed up their inspection period to 5 days instead of 15, right? Or move up their loan to 20 days approval instead of 30, or go ahead and get them to close a little sooner or later, depending on what your client's needs are.
Mm-hmm.
Would that work? And they're like, oh, wow, you could do that? Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm working for you, to help you out with that, right? So take something back from them. And
Could you
that
do that
way,
on the opposite side?
yes,
So let's say the seller
yes,
counters
yes.
and you go up a little bit, but you like what would you change terms wise for you if you go up on price as the buyer?
Yeah, so it may be that you have a specific move-in date. It may be that you have, you know what? We'll do that. Why don't you go ahead and leave all the pool equipment? Or you know what? We'll come up with that price, but we really like that patio furniture. If you go ahead and leave that, we'll go ahead. I mean, it's always everything that we're talking about, and I'm talking. I know that I'm focused on the listing side, and I do keep jumping back to the buyer side, but everything that works on one side works on the other.
Yep.
Right? So every time you have to give on the buy side, try to take something, right? And what it does is it programs them to stop asking for stuff. Because every time they ask for something, they lose something.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, I don't know if they're, I don't know, I haven't looked ahead in this presentation or not. But I know one of the negotiation tactics that you'll come across, and it's probably already in here, but we call it nibbling, where they're constantly keep going after, well, I want this.
This is the anti-nibble, exactly.
Yeah, this anti-nibble, it really stops them when people start coming at you for little things, go right back to them for little things, right? So they say, hey, we want to reduce the price by $5,000. Not a problem. Well, I want to increase my inspection period by 5 more days, right? And you do things like that, okay? They're going to say, well, this guy is not a pushover. It's not hardline negotiation, but you're fighting in the best interest of your client. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. You don't want to feel like I don't want to say you don't want to feel like you lose, because at the end of the day, it should be win-win for everybody. Right. But yeah, if, like Mike said, if you want to change the price of this, then yeah, leave that patio furniture. All right. Well, then, yeah.
Yeah, we'll give you $5,000 more, but go ahead and fix that fascia,
Yeah.
or replace some of those pavers in the patio,
Leave
or
the door,
whatever. Yeah, we'll give you $5,000 more in the price. Go ahead and give us $3,000 towards our closing costs.
Yep.
Right? So ultimately, every time you give, you get. Every time you give, you take. And it shows your client that you're working for them in their best interest as well.
Before you go on, Paige also asked in one of the other earlier in the chat box, you know, how much does she share with the negotiation with the client? Okay, on that, how much of that communication? Share everything.
Everything.
You want your client to know that you are working, you're earning your paycheck, even in the negotiation. Okay, that you're doing everything. In fact, over communicate with your client. Okay, to let them know what you're doing. Right.
Show them that you're playing chess.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them what you know is going to happen a few moves ahead. Because it always does. I mean, this is so the same every time. And you can sound like a genius by just pointing it out. We're going to do this, and they're probably going to come back with something like this or this. And they will. And they're going to go, oh my God, this person is amazing. But it just always happens. They're just not involved in a real estate transaction every day. Right? And it always happens. So yes, over communicate, and you are a single agent for your clients. So you owe them everything that you do. You should explain what you did, how you did it, when you did it, why you did it, and get their okay to do it, right? Yeah. All right. So use and negotiate negotiation tips to respond to common points. And by the way, every time I teach guys, I run ahead because it's topical and there's a good chance that we've run ahead. So when I see things, I'm just going to, because conversationally, we're teaching this stuff through experiences and stories. And when you do that, stuff is going to run into the next parts of the presentation. So we are at the point where role playing, and we would do that in class, is negotiation tips. I've kind of given you some stories so far to kind of take care of this portion of it, but let me hear any additional kind of ahas that you had during that, so we can have some group discussion on it.
This is Keisha. One of the things that I had written in the chat was that negotiation is you have to be creative to compromise. And you touched on the nibbling. So I like the term of nibbling and the anti-nibble, because yes, it can get outrageous. And it can sometimes be even confrontational if the other side keeps nibbling.
Yeah.
So
no, it's a good point. And when I first learned that, and like I said, it was my first listing. I had just started the business, and DeMartino was in business for about a year to a year and a half at the time. And when he shared that with me, that was like a huge nugget of value that I received, because I've used that in every transaction to date. It always works, right? And yeah, it can keep things from getting confrontational. It keeps you from getting, when are you going to stop asking for more? No, just, I'm going to take something every time you ask, right? Makes things easy. So we're going to talk about the 3 P's approach. So this is prepare, present, position, right? So prepare. Presentation is the key to building confidence and ensuring a smooth negotiation. In my opinion, what I've explained to you is the moment that we sign that listing agreement or that buyer broker agreement, we explain the process to our clients from start to finish, or cradle to close, as I like to say. All right. And we explain, because this is our baby, right? This is our baby. This is their baby. This is what's most important. It's the biggest transaction that they'll be doing this year, most likely, or for the next 10 to 15, most likely. So I say cradle to close, right? And I'm going to treat this thing with kid gloves. I'm going to be super careful with it because it's really important to them, right? Mm-hmm. So going through the steps from beginning to end and telling them what's going to happen in there, I'm letting them in on what they can expect. And that way, when what I told them does happen, they're like, oh, Mike told us this would happen. And they have confidence that I've seen this before, I've done this before, they're going to be okay, right? And it's going to happen. And again, there's my script on this. So there's two promises I can make with you. I promise you that this is not going to be perfect. It just about never is. Right? There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be, roadblocks thrown up. Weird things are going to come out, and all these things are going to happen. What I can promise you is that I will be with you every step of the way. Right? I'm always available to you. I'm going to be there. You won't be alone. Right? And there's always stuff that comes up. So I don't want you to be concerned. And then when the things that I told them about do come up, they're like, it's not the first time. They're not blindsided. So make sure you go through the process, whether it's a seller or a buyer. These are how these transactions always play out. And make sure you keep them in the loop, comfortable with everything that's happening. And you don't, even if the agent on the other end kind of nickeling and diming or making you upset, don't come to them upset. Right? Come to them level-headed. Make them love the buyer and not know all the funky things that the buyer agent is trying to do or the buyer is trying to do. You want them to love that person, because when it gets towards the end of the transaction, they're like, oh my God, this person, I hate them. Why? You don't want them to have that feeling, to be stressed out. You're there to just report the facts. Observe and report. You're Paul Blart, right? The mall cop. Observe and report and help them through without getting them upset, right? So that's the first part. Present. Move into negotiation by presenting your offer. Or, is my battery dying? So I got to get my charger. So you're going to present and move them into negotiation by presenting your offer. Now, presenting your offer as a buyer's agent is one thing. And then there's also, you can present your offer as the listing agent presenting to your seller. So you can present in two ways. Can everybody still hear me? Because I'm moving.
Yes.
Okay, you probably can't hear me because I just heard feedback. Bear with me, I'm getting my charger. Can you hear me now though?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So you're gonna present that offer, whether it's a buyer or you're working for the seller, you're gonna present that offer to your clients or present it to the listing agent. So that's prepare. So when we say prepare to present, what's important about that? Because you just think, okay, I'm making an offer. What's important about making an offer to a listing agent or to a seller or to a buyer? Just give me a couple of thoughts of what's important.
The inspection period.
Say it again.
The inspection period, along with price, obviously, but the inspection period, it could be how long do they need to, deadlines, basically, closing date.
Yeah, so that's good. Alan, did you have something?
Type of loan, any contingencies.
Okay, good. So these are terms, conditions. Anyone else?
The motivation of the buyer for the peace of mind of the listing agent.
Okay. And here's another, I just jumped out of our screen, so I apologize. I'm going to get back in there. There's another thought process, and it seems obvious to, when I say it, it'll seem obvious to some, and it's not going to be completely obvious to others. All right, my computer is acting weird.
I think also what your question was, what's concerning to the buyer or the seller, right? What if they are a match? What if they run into conflicting situations, or they bump heads?
Yeah, and here's the thing. You want to make sure that your offer is complete. Okay? You want to make sure that you've got everything that is needed to complete this offer. So you've got all the supporting documents right? Not just an offer with price, because price alone is not the key. So you have to have all your supporting documents. And I'm telling you this because I'm guilty of this. I like to just get to the price, get that accepted, and then I'll do all the rest of the work, right? You've got to get your homeowners association, condominium stuff, all your riders, lead-based paint, any other riders that are involved with this property. Make sure that everything is together before you present it, because you can lose an offer just by looking like, oh my God, this person's gonna be a nightmare to deal with because all I have is this, and I need lead-based paint, and I need a condo rider, and I need this association, I need that, I need all of these things, and I don't have any of them.
Um, also, including some comps with your offer or with your counter offer?
So if you feel like you're in a multiple offer situation or not, you can give an explanation of the price that you chose to offer, which can help you to get your offer accepted. So that's a great aha there, Paige. When you have a property that is overpriced, and you know it is, just because it's a cookie cutter neighborhood and this house is no different than those houses, and we're 20 grand apart, so you're going to put in that offer that's 20 grand low. You go ahead and send them a couple of comps that are exactly the same that just closed in the last month or so. This is, listen, we want to be respectful to your, and think about this. In consideration to your sellers, we want to be really respectful and not make them feel like this is a low offer. We've saw these two homes that have closed. They look very much the same. And so that's how we came up with the price to make an offer. If there's something that is, far and above in that house that we didn't see, please feel free to let us know about it. And, we're willing to, be reasonable on that and make your offer, right?
Oh, I have another question. Sometimes it turns out the other agent didn't present the written offer. They verbally gave the offer to the seller and didn't present all of the documentation that was actually offered. So
Yeah, and sometimes that can happen. Your conversation again with that listing agent, if you're the buyer's agent, about your clients and planting those seeds with them is going to serve you well in that respect, because we can't control what they do. What we can do is plant seeds with them how to do it, right? So we want to let them know, just we're careful not to offend your sellers. Here's what we found. So if there's something different about their property, now it may be that the listing agent overpriced it and doesn't know what the value of that property, couldn't do a proper CMA, and or they were an order taker and just took whatever price that seller said they wanted to go with and ran with it, right? So we're giving them the evidence that they didn't give to their seller. We're giving it to them now and explaining to them how they should explain it to their clients in a nice way, right? So presentation of your offer being complete with all supporting and peripheral paperwork, everything together with that offer, so that you seem like you're on your stuff and they go, that's the person I want to deal with.
Hey, Mike, what about seller's disclosure? Let's say the listing agent hasn't put the seller disclosure on the MLS. Do you ask for it before the offer? You put in the offer?
You may absolutely ask for it before, and I don't have a problem with asking for it after we're executed, because at the end of the day, we have our inspection period that's protecting us, and we can go over the seller's disclosure and then have a look at the inspection and see that things match up. Because, for any reason, like you have a bad dream one night, if you're in an inspection period, you can exit the contract.
Yeah.
So if they're not there, and frequently they're not going to be there, you can exit that contract. So move both, the last P is position, to move both parties close until you have a full agreement. So think about that and think about what I said earlier. We are literally just trying to get a meeting of the minds. You probably heard that last time in real estate class, right? It's a meeting of the minds. We're just trying to bring these two guys mentally together, and that this is the process that they're both in, and we achieve these goals together, right? So that's the 3Ps approach, right? So just trying to think about, you know, what's we've set clear expectations. We informed our sellers or buyers of the process. We are ethical and staying within the laws of our function in doing all of this process. And we need to stay completely separated from the outcome. Does anybody know what I mean about that?
Just no matter what the outcome is, it's not has no emotional attachment to you.
Yeah, yeah. And if it did, how could that affect us?
What you're saying basically is it's not about commission. It's about your clients getting the house. It's more important.
Yeah, so what's a script for that? Somebody. All right, so here it is. Whether you're talking to a buyer or a seller, listen, at the end of the day, I'm no more motivated to buy this house than you are. This is a process. It takes time. And if this isn't the right one, we'll find you the right one. Right? I'm no more motivated to accept this price and sell this house than you are. And if this isn't our offer that we should accept, then it's not. And we'll look for the next one. And then I will go on to share what I know about it. But I start with that. They have to believe that you're not connected. They have to understand that it's not about your next car payment, your mortgage payment, your anything, because then it becomes about you and it's no longer about them. Can it work that way?
Nope.
It won't. It's commission breath.
Yep.
Mhm.
The moment they smell commission breath, you're done. You're finished. Right? So if it's 6 months and you're working with this buyer, man, that's on you. That's on you. You didn't do a good job to really qualify this person. Or you're not bringing them to the right properties. Or you forgot to fire them. Right? Because some people are just enjoying your company. And they're not motivated to buy. And because you have this commission breath, you keep taking them out. Fire those people. Or put them on the back burner. Spend your time where it's valuable. Right? Make sure that your time is being spent well. You cannot let them run your day, week, month, year, any of that. Right? So it's not about you. It's always about them. You're no more motivated to buy this house or sell this house than they are. If you decide to take this property off the market tomorrow and we don't get the offer that makes it possible for you, c'est la vie, right? And when you're in a listing presentation, you know what? I like you. I want to help you. But whether or not you decide to listen to me, I'm still going to sell 20 homes this year. The question is one of them yours? Right? So you got to have a little bit of swagger. You got to be a little cocky, and you got to seem very unattached. It's a duck. You got to be a duck. You know, you're smooth, cool on the surface. Underneath, you are paddling like a devil, right? So be a duck, guys.
Yeah.
So.
I love your analogy, Mike. It's just like fantastic.
Where did my presentation
all of you can have that. All of you.
Where did my presentation page go? I don't know what happened.
Ducks fly together.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Let me get this back up. Give me a second, guys. I don't know what happened to my shared page. I might have closed it out by accident. All right, let me share this screen. Am I still sharing? Yeah, okay, no, I
Yes.
am. All right, I don't know what I was looking at. I wasn't looking at what I thought I was looking at. All right. Mike Trelongo, Tech Guru, take 2. All right. I'm back up, and I know we're in the wrong place. So we're going to fix that. All right. So I think this is where we want to be. Open-ended questions that have unlimited responses. We want to keep them to more of closed questions when we want to, and open when we want to. Does anybody know what that means?
Sometimes you want a yes or no answer, but at the same time, sometimes you want them to be more clear.
Yeah, so when we're asking for motivation, are we looking for yeses or nos?
Yes.
So I'm going to say no. When we're asking for motivation, I talk
Sorry,
fast.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
opposite.
so when we're up from, we want them to throw up on us, right? We want them to give us everything they can and share everything that's important about them getting to wherever they're getting, selling their home, buying a home, whatever it is. We want everything from them. However, when we're trying to get them to agree on a commission rate, we want them to say yes, 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 and then close, right? Right. So we get to choose how we ask our questions and why we ask them, right? So what's important? So open-ended. What additional information should I know? And we want them to talk, right? What's important about closing in 30 days? How do you feel about that? Right? So we want to understand motivation, feelings, what's really important about this that I should know. Do you have to sell your home by close end, right? You have to sell your home by a specific date. Yes or a no can make sense. And then we go 3 deep, right? What date is that? Why is that important? What happens if you don't sell by that time? So when you ask a close end question and it's that type of question, we can go 3 deep with it. So we're asking an agent, do you have any offers? Or if we're going to do a showing, or we're asking a for sale by owner, do you have any offers? Or we're talking to an expired listing. Hey, during that time when you were on the market, did you receive any offers? So those are yes or no's, and then we can go 3 deep. What's a bottom line price you would consider? Now, we can ask a listing agent that, right? And we can also ask for sale by owner that question. We can also ask an expired that question, right? Why would you ask an expired that question? Well, okay, well, the house didn't sell, whatever. What's a bottom line price that you would accept? They could say anything, but ultimately it's keeping them on the phone to say something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they tell me the bottom line price that they accept, and I'll often ask, and is a script, then why didn't you price it there? And I'm going to let that sit. So dropping a bomb and walk away, just silence. Right? So these scripts, these things that you're hearing, these strategies can be used in any way, not just negotiation. And yet everything is negotiation, isn't it? So there's two main type of questions, open and closed. Which one do you feel is the more powerful, open-ended questions or closed?
Open.
Okay. Anybody on the other side of that?
Actually, I don't know. I think it depends on the
Yeah, it depends on the
question.
question.
Yeah, good job. Way to go, Paige. Way to come back on that one, because it really depends.
Yeah,
Depends on what you're out. So the question that's powerful depends on the outcome that you desire. It's the same thing I say about scripts. It's the same thing I say about negotiations. I am talking to people, asking them questions to lead them where I want them to go. So I talk about it in scripts and role play a lot. And I don't think I've said it to this group before. So do you ever see when the magician does their card trick and they say pick a card, any card? And then they pick a card and miraculously it's the two of diamonds. They show it to everybody. The magician doesn't see it, right? But ultimately the magician, I'm the magician. I've got the two of diamonds like everywhere, under my hat, in my pants, sleeves, pockets, everywhere. I got the two of diamonds planted around the room because I knew that was a card I wanted you to have. So I'm asking you questions to ultimately get you to choose the two of diamonds because I have the answer everywhere. So I'm leading you down a path that leads you to the two of diamonds. And that's what I'm doing in negotiations. That's what I'm doing when I'm in lead generation. That's what I'm doing all the time, is leading you guys, leading my sellers and buyers, leading those co-op agents to the two of diamonds that I have all over the place. And if I'm thinking about that all the time, I'm going to look like a genius at the end when I pull out the two of diamonds.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what this is about. It's about working people into your box, putting them where you want them. And the only way you do that is you start with the end in mind. Same thing with the clients, is you tell them, hey, listen, let's start with the end in mind. What's important to you about this? And get them to where they want to be based on what they told you in the beginning. And every other move that you make after that is about getting them to where they wanted to be. And then it's about them and not about you. And they'll
Mike,
feel that the entire time. Yes.
I wanted to share an example of a closed ended question. My very first transaction, I was representing the buyer, who was my sister, and it was a large home on an acre in Tamarack in the Woodlands. And it was the person that lived there was a retired doctor, and he passed away. He had beautiful furniture and art in the home. Mm-hmm. And we had negotiated on price and we were good with price. And my buyer, which was my sister and her husband, wanted to see the home again. And we went back through in the period that we were still kind of negotiating price. And my brother-in-law commented that he liked the furniture. So I stepped outside and I called the agent. And I just asked him, where are the kids? Because he has kids who are dealing with the estate. And so he told me that the one that's mainly dealing with it is in Seattle. The two daughters are in California. And that was my question to get in there to ask for all the furniture. That way they wouldn't have to pack up anything, move anything. And my initial question was, does any of the kids live in South Florida? It was no. And then that was the question. And we got all the furniture included for free.
Yeah, because you were listening. You were attentive. You were paying attention to what was being said, to what it was all about for them. Right? So this comes down to what I forget who mentioned it, but somebody said be empathetic. Right? And that comes down to listening very carefully, seeing what's important about these things to other people. Okay, there you go. So we've kind of touched base on a lot of these things. Like I said, I kind of teach ahead because it's just conversational and it's part of these things. So
Mike, you're kind of like
what do you guys think
bit
about this 3 Ps approach? Say it again.
Percent and position, excellent, love it.
Yeah, I think that was my internet connection that caused me. Can everybody hear me okay?
A little better.
Okay, good. So
Mike,
I
was gonna say I used to be a magician for 7 years, and that example, I'm serious. Like,
That's
so
awesome.
in magic terms, what you just described is called a force. It's a force. You're forcing them to pick a specific card. I mean, and then you saying like have the end in mind, because that's, if you develop a magic trick, you have the end in mind and then you work backwards. That's how it works. That was genius.
Exactly. Now, so thank you. And
Did you guys talk about it before you got on this session?
no, no, that's cool though. No, but it's really cool.
What
Yeah,
a
it
cool
is cool.
coincidence.
I mean, ultimately, it is that.
Yeah.
It is that. You know, um, it doesn't matter what they say. And this is, yes, going to negotiations and going to lead generation and going to everything. The only reason that words come out of my mouth initially is to get them to say the things that I need to know to get them to pick the two of diamonds. The two of diamonds is not what I want. It's what they want. And I learn that quickly, and I bring them to that by asking the right questions that ultimately get them back there. Right? It could be just their motivation. It could be the time frame. It could be anything. So now I'm going to tailor my tactics, my questions, to get them to there. The only reason why I open my mouth initially is to get an objection in lead generation. The only reason why I come up with a price that I'm going to sell their property at is to get an offer. But ultimately, I know where I want to be, two of diamonds. And I put them in a box to get them there, right? I mean, my last listing, to give you an idea, my last listing, we priced the property at $579.9. After they were priced at $595, wrong, with the wrong agent. And they were disheartened to find out that they needed to price it lower. And I said, well, here's the next thing. We're probably going to close at around 563 based on my calculation. 562.6 is where your home should sell. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah, really. I was like, you were on the market for almost 150 days to find out that you were priced wrong, right? And you had 3 price reductions. If you were on sale now, would anybody have already come and snatched up this property? So you're not on sale because you don't have any offers. So we're priced incorrectly. So here's where I'm going to list it, and here's where I believe it will close. 562, 625. She pulled out the notes when we were in negotiations. She says, well, you said it was going to be right around here. I says, well, we're not done negotiations yet. And we closed at 563.
Oh, excellent.
So two of diamonds, right? I got them more than I told them they were going to get. At the end of the day, they got more than I said they would get. But I set them up with a real expectations based on their needs and what they wanted, right? And it's not always what they wanted. And you know what? When I was in the car business, I had people that come in looking for an F-150, and they leave with a 5-speed Ranger, right? Because they have a thought about what they're going to get, and then reality hits, and then they get what they should have gotten, right? And sometimes you'll deal with a buyer who's looking to be, and this is negotiating with them, who wants to be in Coral Springs, and then they wind up in Tamarack, right? So everybody has wants, and you close your circle so much that you only focused on Coral Springs because you didn't vet them well enough to find out that they would have moved to Coconut Creek, Tamarack, Margate, because you listened to them and didn't ask the right questions. Questions control everything in life. You got to ask the right questions, guys, because it'll happen. It'll just happen slower for you. All right, so I think we're towards the end here. So the ahas to the achievement. So guys, how has your thinking changed around this whole process? Did you get stuff out of here today that you didn't have before? Is this going to make you better?
The
Of
two of
course.
diamonds, and if you're gonna give, you gotta take. I love those both.
Yeah, those are tremendous. Thank you, Griselda.
And how to use the give and take, like how to negotiate it, you know. So it's not just simply, well, give me this and I'll give you that. No, it's like, okay, you know what, since we're going there, let me negotiate to the to the best of my ability and give the best to my client, you know? So like that, my client knows I'm not a pushover.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you said from cradle to the end, because even in coaching now, that's what we're doing from cradle to the end. So I feel like I can relate to that. You know, like, okay, that's relatable. I can see me doing that for my client from cradle to the end and explain what's going on, the expectations, what to expect, what not to expect. If this happens, let's go here, you know, and you know, the lingo is going to flow.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. And so anybody, how do you feel differently about what was meaningful today about your experience?
I think some of your scripts, I take for granted that scripts are lead gen, lead gen, lead gen, but throughout the negotiation process, you have scripts, even to the other agent.
Yep.
And
That's an
so that
awesome
was
takeaway.
bonus.
Scripts don't end. They right down to the closing table. You know, and the closing table one is set up at the listing table. So at
Yep.
the end of this, when you're talking with them on your listing presentation, you're gonna tell them that I'll know it was a 10-10 experience, 10 out of 10, because during this process, you're gonna be talking to a lot of people about real estate, people that are buying homes, selling homes, and I'll know I did a really great job for you. At the end, by the time we hit the closing table, you have given me one referral. So now at the closing table, I'm going to sit down and say, remember our conversation? So we're here at the closing table. And how was it? Was it a 10 out of 10? Okay. All right. Awesome. I'm really excited about that. So do you have a referral for me? Right. So I'm going to hold them to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to ask them. And it's okay if they don't. Ultimately, I want them to keep thinking about that. But it's scripts throughout. The whole thing is scripts. It's not just to lead generate to get the appointment. It's not just to get the listing. It's negotiation. It's inspection. It's appraisal. It's all the way through the entire process with no end to scripts. And when I call them and connect with them again after we close and ask them how everything's going, I'm going to ask them to let me know if they know anybody who's looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate. It's scripts throughout.
Or I can say Mike has mastered the language of real estate.
And I am not a master. I've got about just close to 3,000 hours, 10,000 hours to master.
Okay.
You know, one last parting thing I have about negotiation is your mindset is everything. We know 90% of our success is in our mindset. All right. For agents that are brand new, for agents that are on the call that say, I'm scared of the negotiation, I've never had to do like a high stakes negotiation before, I'm really nervous about that. Your drunk monkey might even be saying, I'm not a good negotiator. All right. We've heard those things before. I've heard them before. I've said them to myself, you know, a couple times before. But your mindset is everything. Just know that negotiation, being a skilled negotiator, is a learned skill. It's something that you can learn and improve on every single time. Okay. Just make sure that you're a student of this business. Make sure you're paying attention to your negotiations. See what worked, see what didn't work, see what tactics the other party used on you, see what you used on them, and what worked from there. But remember, it's always it is a trained skill, a learned skill. So that's one thing. You can get better at that, right? And that just comes with practice. All right. The other thing is, my very first transaction, I went in there with that whole mentality of my very first listing, my very first sale. I'm a brand new agent. I'm learning as I go and so forth. And yes, that was the truth, but that was my overwhelming thought process, right? Was I'm a brand new agent. During the negotiation, I went against a very skilled negotiator, and for lack of better terms, he kicked my ass. All right. For lack of better terms, he kicked my ass. I mean, he had his way through me left and right and things like that. And at the very end of the deal, I said to myself, I cannot let that happen again. I don't feel, to this day, I still don't feel like I represented my client's best interest because I wasn't a skilled or I wasn't a very strong negotiator. Right. So every time I'm in a negotiation, even today, even 5-6 years later, and I'm still in a negotiation, I still think to what happened on that first deal. And I'm like, I'm not going to let that happen again. right? And I think having that mindset of winning, also having the mindset of being, win-win, that's helped me become a more skilled negotiator, right? Not just like rely on, just shooting from the hip all the time. It is a trained, it's a learned skill. It's something that you have to, be aware of, be cognizant of, and constantly work on improving. So that's my 2 cents on negotiations.
Good stuff. Alan, I saw you unmuted yourself. Did you have something to add?
I was just gonna say, like, the embedded commands built into the scripts. They're very important. And I see more of the importance now. Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. So ultimately, that's part of the process of training people, getting that conversation to go where you want it to go, and their commands, right? So people will follow where you lead them, but you've got to remember that you're always leading. And you only know where you're leading them to if you have the end in mind, where you've gotten their motivation, you know what is important, then you can lead correctly. So it comes down to how well you went through that client's needs analysis. Again, it's not about you. If you're doing this right, it never will be. Right? It's always about your clients. Do that.
Hey,
Yes.
sorry, Mike and John. I did the RENE class like within 3 months. It just happened to come up. This was like a year ago, and in that 2-day class, certification class, they went through a lot of scenarios, and he gave those scenarios to us. So I have them so that if you would want to do a separate session, and basically it's like you break up into teams, and one side represents the buyer or the seller, and you come together and you practice that role play scenario of negotiations given the situation. So you're given that information.
I absolutely love that, Keisha. If you can share those scenarios and things like that, that would be great. You shoot that to myself or Mike. Definitely would love to incorporate that, whether it's in here or in pro coaching. So that would be awesome.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. So we ran over, and I noticed that we continued to run over. There's a lot of material, but there's a lot of good stuff, and I don't want to shortchange you guys on any of this. So before we break, any additional questions or thoughts?
I would give you great class.
Thank you. I
For sure.
appreciate that, Eddie.
Excellent.
That means a lot coming from you.
Excellent.
All right, guys. So the next part of this, if we want to succeed, go get on the phones, reach out to some people, make some care calls. Now stay in the activities now. You've got this under your belt now, or at least in your wheelhouse and your thought process. Go find out what's important about everybody else, about what they're doing, what's going on in their lives, and how you can help.
Sounds like
Cool.
a plan.
All right, guys. Make it a great day.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you,
Amen.
guys.
Nobody wants to leave.